Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the 500 Mile Podcast. My name is Justin Kolb alongside Michael Skinner. Michael, what a wonderful weekend of racing we had at Darlington. We mentioned it earlier, Darlington never disappoints, and we got not one but two bangers of a race. Mother Nature got in the way a little bit, but she didn't stay long, and we got both races in full, and got a lot to talk about with the action that we saw in both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both races, you know, weather-wise turned out to be fantastic. Uh, they each had their own quirks about them, which really kind of just shows the differences in the cars, that NASCAR brings for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. But both races were fantastic. The Xfinity race, we got a lot of slipping and sliding around, and the field was spread out. Whereas I think in the Cup race, we got a little bit of that old school attrition for 500 miles. So anybody that hates 500-mile races, if you say you hated that race on Sunday, you got to go figure out what's wrong with your head. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic weekend. Uh, you know, Unfortunately, a few things that NASCAR did, you know, on the racetrack and off the racetrack still kind of overshadowed what was a fantastic weekend for racing.
Yep. All right, let's jump into it here with the Xfinity series because I mean that the racing overall was good, but man, that finish going to be looked at in one of the best in the Xfinity series in quite a while and maybe ever because I mean those last few laps, Kyle Larson, Sheldon Creed didn't get much better than that. And the best part about it, in my opinion, and it seems to be in a bunch of other people's opinions, Kyle Larson, I mean, yes, he was trying to win the race, but he was doing so in a fashion that, didn't want to mess up Sheldon Creed. You could just tell that in the way he was driving. He knew what was on the line for Sheldon, so didn't want to get involved in that. But, I mean, he was pretty much tried to make it clean all the way he could. But Sheldon made it tough. Mere driving, and I mean, nothing against Sheldon because he had to do what he had to do at that point, driving for his season. Knew he had to win that race and just about got it done. But Noah Gragson at the end stole it. And I mean, well, I wouldn't say stole it because he had a very fast car as well that day, but made it interesting in the end.
Yeah, you really got to give it up to all three of those guys. At one point in time, all three of them ran into each other inadvertently or advertently, whichever way you want to look at it. Uh, but I mean, like you said, what a finish! Sheldon racing for his life, pretty much like you said, trying to get his spot in the playoffs. And I gotta give him props. I've been pretty hard on him all season, but he showed up this weekend at one of his better racetracks. He really performed well in the Truck Series here, and it just seemed like this weekend he was a little bit different. He had a little bit more confidence in him, and that 100% sure. I can't say enough. He showed up and he did everything that he could other than winning the actual race, uh, which is unfortunate on his part. But yeah, Larson, he drove with a lot of respect for those Xfinity Series guys. But man, I mean, with 14 laps to go, that guy started eighth and wound up, being a factor in it, which just shows you how good he is at Darlington. And then Noah, he's over this past year, you can see why he finally got that opportunity in a Cup ride. He's come such a long way from his days at KBM to where he'd be racing Johnny Sauter at Dover and wrecking race trucks and matured so much, and he's become such a good racecraft driver. He understands the ebbs and flows a lot more than he used to, and you see it. You know, his maturation process happening right there in front of you. So I think that's pretty interesting. But man, what a race! That whole day was fantastic, and yeah, man, love Darlington. It always puts on such a good show.
Absolutely. And um, some people had some interesting takes on that wall right at the end there. I kind of want to get into that for a little bit because it seems to be a growing trend there at Darlington. First, it started as a joke, and then Larson did it in 21 and almost won the race. And seemed like Sheldon was going to try and do the same thing until that tire blew. And I mean, it looked like it was going to work, but kind of have to keep that momentum down the front straightaway.
Yeah, man, what a I honestly for like a good 10 seconds, I'm like, oh my god, this he's gonna win the race riding the wall. And I think you brought it up earlier that he probably would have had he not had that blown blown right front tire. But like I said, I mean, Sheldon did everything he could to win the race without actually doing it. He was putting on blocks in the center of one. Uh, you know,
Mirror driving for sure.
yeah. The one thing that I gotta say is, he did a really good job of, yeah, he was mirror driving, but he also still drove the racetrack. He still raced the racetrack in that manner. He still drove his line on entry. He still drove it, the way his car was handling what made it work. He said he was way too loose to run up there by the wall, so he had to run lower on the racetrack. So he still did that. He just took away opportunities for those guys in the center when it came about. So he did a really, really good job. Super impressed, especially the way he's ran this year. RCR was really strong with both cars. At one point in time, they were both running 1 and 2 there in the middle of the race. So, but yeah, another good Xfinity race this year. Another great Xfinity Series finish. Um, Noah just seems to keep clicking some of these finishes off and wins off, and he's going to have a really, really good shot at almost, kind of guaranteeing himself into the final four, as long as he doesn't have a Chase Elliott, style kind of disaster, going into the first couple rounds. But uh, yeah, just I think the biggest thing is just the maturation process of Noah. Looking forward to see him what he can do in a Cup car full time next year. So I think every time he gets a chance to go on the racetrack, he matures and he gets a little bit better here and there. So uh, overall, like I said, it was such a good race. NASCAR finally caught a caution when they could actually see rain for once, so they did a good job there. Uh, yeah, and for the one that as much crap as NASCAR's gotten over the past few weeks, I feel like they've done a good job of making sure that these races finish on the day that they're supposed to be. And they've pushed them to the max. I mean, we had a 2 hour rain delay here at Darlington. I think what it was for the Xfinity Series
Yeah,
race.
yeah, about two and
Um,
a half.
yeah, so I feel like in the past, maybe NASCAR might have just like an hour or so in, might have been like, "Hey, we're just gonna finish it tomorrow before the Cup race," kind of deal. But they did their best to get both races in, regardless of the rain situation. But overall, awesome Xfinity Series race. I feel like the Xfinity Series always, when we go to Darlington, always puts on a good show. Um, Even when there is a Cup driver in the field, it seems like the Xfinity Series guys most of the time, still seem to get the leg up. So, yeah, good race.
For sure. And I mean, other than that, in the rain, I'm not sure that there's much else to talk about. You got anything else that you wanted to bring up for that Xfinity race before we dive into the Cup Series?
Um, No, we'll cover some more Xfinity Series stuff in the news. Let's get to how good that Cup race was, how classic it kind of seemed with uh, the attrition part of it. But yeah, honestly, just can't say enough about how good the Xfinity Series race really was. Um, Enjoyable. Uh, Overall, it's been a good season for the Xfinity Series in that manner. And there's what, 3 races or 2 races left for the Xfinity Series playoffs.
I believe two,
Um,
yeah.
I think it's 2, yeah, because they ended at Bristol. So I look forward to this weekend being just as competitive for the Xfinity Series, as well as um, going to Bristol again is always going to be a good show.
Indeed. Well, let's show you the standings here and where everybody finished. So, of course, as you saw, Noah Gragson took home the win. Did a burnout so good that he had to get a few seconds to get all that smoke out of his lungs. That was
And he did he puke this time? I didn't,
I don't think he puked, but he was. I think that
he was
winded
trying
was
to.
the. I think the windedness you saw at the end of the race was from the fumes and all the smoke that came into the cockpit at the end. That's at least what I assume. That's what it seemed like. Because I mean, I gave him a few minutes and he was just fine. So it's like a new man. But was the winner. Led 82 laps. Sheldon Creed came home in second, leading 47 laps. So I mean, he'd pretty much destroyed the race car, but at least he still got second with it. So came home with something. AJ Allmendinger in third, Justin Allgaier in fourth, leading 12 laps, and Kyle Larson rounds out the top five, only leading one and not being able to really recover past. Well, I mean, fifth is still good, but should have maybe finished fifth. But everybody was in the wall there at the end, so everybody was just trying to recover there. Ty Gibbs came home in sixth. Christopher Bell in seventh, filling in for Denny Hamlin this weekend. Josh Berry in eighth. John Hunter Nemechek in ninth after getting rear-ended by the 23 of Anthony Alfredo. And I guess we can talk about that for just a second because I'm not sure that a lot of people know what happened there. Apparently, of course, he was sick in the car. He didn't say it directly, but I believe the indication was when he hit the 26 John Hunter Nemechek was that he was getting a little sick in the car, if you will, at that time. So his actions at that moment didn't really seem to add up to what was happening with him. But I mean, we're not in that car. We don't really know what's happening. So, but it seemed like he got sick right at the moment that he was catching up to the field. So that's what we're led to believe, and I guess we'll stick to that story. Either way, still a pretty strange incident, but nonetheless, going down the list here, Austin Hill rounded out the top 10 there. A few other notables here: Sam Mayer in 11th, Daniel Hemrick in 13th. Ross Chastain was in the field. He finished 15th. Kyle Weatherman in for Jesse Iwuji, who was actually there but was not in the car. They interviewed him on the grid there. He finished 16th, and Kyle will be in the car again this weekend at Kansas. Just a heads up for that. Ryan Sieg in 18th. Jeremy Clements in 21st. His appeal will be coming up, I believe, this weekend for the
Tuesday,
Daytona infraction. Yep, there you go. I don't know if anything will come of that. Probably not, but we will see. Ryan Ellis, a.k.a. Jeff Gordon, in 22nd. That car looked so good other than the fact that they didn't have the bottom Camaro stuff there on the splitter side. So if they would have had that, that car would have looked complete. Still a really good-looking car, but I mean, because they matched literally all the details up to the font of the sponsors. It was the exact font, DuPont font, on the quarter panels, and at the bottom, I think it was the Nicorette font that they had at one point there. They they matched that font too. So, I mean, other than the Camaro part of the bottom, they matched that to a T. So it was a very good car.
I think it was a better color. I think it was a closer color than the one they ran uh, for William Byron also.
I think you're probably right, honestly, because something about it just looked better.
It looked perfect.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but
other than, I think they just went for the super speedway style front end, but that's just my opinion.
Could be. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Riley Herbst came home in 34th, and as we said, Anthony Alfredo in 37th. Michael, who did you pick? Did you pick Barry or
Yep, I picked Josh Berry. It wasn't a great weekend. It wasn't an awful weekend. But certainly I thought that he was going to be assuring for a top 5. I'll be honest with you. When I picked him, I was so confident.
Yeah, and I picked Josh Berry, who wasn't really in the mix at all this weekend. So where did he end up? 8th. Okay, that's not bad. And you ended up finishing 4th. So good stuff. Top 10s for both of us. All right, we ready to talk Sunday?
No.
Well, yeah. Let's just kind of skirt around that for a little bit.
Oh, you finished 4th. I finished 8th.
You're right.
You picked Allgaier. Right. I picked.
I had our picks backwards. Still good days, but yeah. Let's get into the Cup Series race because man, that was a.
Look, I'm willing to talk about the first 20. I'm willing to talk about all but the last 22 laps.
Well, that's fine because we don't have to get into that until later. So let's just do it. No, in all honesty, that was, I mean, just like the Coke 600. What a show they put on, man. I was not expecting that. Kind of based on the earlier race, the spring race. I didn't remember that being that good, but man, they put on a hell of a show. An attrition race again. I wasn't seeing that, or I did not have that on my bingo card, but that was in the mix apparently. For everybody, not just Joe Gibbs. Hendrick had their engine issues again. It started with Kyle Larson. Went into William Byron a little bit, but I don't think that he ever really came down pit road to even address that. That seemed like maybe sort of a phantom thing. We'll have to see, I guess. But, yeah. People had issues with attrition, and I mean, the whole playoff field at this point is upside down with Chase Elliott spinning out on his own. That alone put it into a yard sale mode, and see our beautiful faces again. That alone reset the entire playoff. I want to get your opinion on this, Michael, because that alone I feel like reset the entirety of the playoff grid. Now that gap is gone, That's pretty much yard sale for the rest of this field at this point.
Yeah, they put man, there's a lot of guys that put themselves not necessarily in a hole, but they started off the playoffs so well. Easiest person to point out is Chase Elliott. He honestly he got extremely extremely lucky that a lot of people had problems. Um, you know, well, what was it there for the first probably what 50% of the race there? The only people that had had problems up to that point had really honestly only been the 200 cars. Um, and Chase Briscoe there, and it wasn't looking good. I think at one point in time, Chase Elliott was like only plus 19 to the cut line. Um, and starting with a what was it like a plus 40 or something point, definite or point, plus there to the cut line. Uh, huge, 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 huge weekend for a lot of these guys, especially for the guys like I said that had trouble. But it kind of reminded me of I can't remember the exact race, but I think it might have been even Darlington last year or one of the playoff races last year, where it almost seemed like 90% of the pace field actually had an issue. So they kind of all balanced themselves out, but definitely could have been a lot worse. Um, and like I said, I think the biggest shock is Chase Elliott there. He had such a massive lead. Uh, he retained a little bit more than he probably should have with everybody else having problems, but it could have been a lot worse, and something I definitely didn't expect from a team that had been almost so dominant in the summer months that they really couldn't do any wrong.
Yeah. I do think you kind of had to expect that that bubble would burst at some point, but surely didn't think that that would happen race one and as big as it did. So, but again, Chase wasn't the only one to have issues this weekend. There were a ton. Um, there was a guy that probably should have made the playoffs and didn't, and was looking like he was going to win the race. Martin Truex, he didn't end up winning the race. Um, I mean, just so much stuff happened. I don't really know where to go next with this, but I think one thing I do want to address at this point is the situation with Kevin Harvick, and I'm going to go on a soapbox here for just a little bit because I mean, what happened with that was just flat out unacceptable, really. Um, so I guess there's been issues with Fords in particular, rubber getting into the rocker box and just catching on fire. That seemed to be the issue with Harvick this weekend, but the cherry on top of it was the fact that he was on fire from turn 3 over to turn 1, and they didn't throw the caution until he was getting out of the car. He was halfway out of the car. First of all, that's just flat out unacceptable, even if you're in a green flag cycle, which I guess they would use as the excuse, but I don't see that as an excuse. There's a guy literally on fire halfway around the racetrack.
Oh,
Like, how do we not throw a
yeah.
caution for that? Uh, I mean, you can't wait. That just, it's such a bad look for everybody at that point if you wait until the guy is literally getting out of the car to throw that yellow. I mean, if you
He
wanted to
drove
look,
down the front stretch on fire. He drove
yeah,
down the front stretch right there. It's not like NASCAR was like, oh, we couldn't see the rain, right? You saw the car on fire. Like 100%, you were absolutely correct. NASCAR has no
drove right
excuses,
by
and
him, so there was no missing that.
I'm so glad that everybody, and especially Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childress, just chewed into their asses. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, Harvick even tweeted about it a day later. He's like, "Is the caution out yet?" Quote tweeted the video that NASCAR had posted for that. It's just not a good look when you do something like that. I mean, it's been a few weeks where Daytona, you made yourself look like an ass, and now this week with the rain, or rain last week, the fire this week, it's not a good look, especially when you start mixing it in week after week at this point. We got to clean it up. It's just not a good look. I understand why you may have wanted to not throw that caution, but if there's a car on fire that big, you just have to throw the caution. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts around it. You have to throw the caution. I don't I don't know. There's no getting around that. It's a bad look. It's awful for everybody because it's a talking point now. And I mean that's pretty much ignited a fire in Harvick this week. He was tweeting a whole bunch of stuff today, especially if you haven't checked that out, go check out his Twitter page because that's just that's a great it's a great read. All the stuff he got into, but Michael, I want to get your point on it because it's just not a good look. It doesn't look good for anybody.
I said it last week, right? NASCAR just does things that implement themselves and just bites themselves in the ass. It's just stupid. And I think the biggest thing, and I think maybe to why it's come to like come to light so much this year, and because let's be honest, NASCAR's been doing this for 50 years, right? They make questionable calls, they call things when they want to, and call things when they don't want to. It's been a part of the sport since its inception. But I think right now, I think teams and I think the drivers are actually holding NASCAR more accountable, and I think they're calling them out more. So we actually get to see it more, whether it be because of how big social media is right now, to where drivers can voice their opinion away from media cameras.
which is a great
But
tool.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I both agree that the only way that things are going to change is if the drivers put their feet down and the teams put their feet down. You can try to have a NASCAR without drivers, without teams. I don't know what you're going to do, but you can try it. Those guys are the people that kind of make the cog run. NASCAR may be the name, but you don't go to a race to, you know, watch NASCAR, right? You go to watch the teams and the drivers on the racetrack. So it's they just do things every weekend to just kind of put their foot in their ass. Every week, it's the same thing. We're gonna see the same thing this weekend, I'm sure, at some point in time. Uh, like that one with Ricky Stenhouse. We saw Ricky Stenhouse in the All Star race hit the wall like a third, maybe like a third percentage as hard as he did Sunday night, no caution. Right? I mean, he destroyed that thing. No caution. Kevin Harvick's flying down the front stretch on fire, almost hits a car to his inside, past the start finish line. It's like you said, gets halfway out of the car. Then we throw a caution. What if he'd have been stuck? Right? The crew, it's frustrating in just situations like that to where it just doesn't make any sense. Just throw the caution. Like, what was against them not throwing the caution there? Like, why wait? Like you said that maybe it was green flag pit stops. So
That's not an excuse though.
you're gonna risk a guy being on fire. Well, we're gonna make sure. Look, we promised Kevin, we'll get some fire extinguishers to you after green flag pit stops.
We just have
We
to
don't
make
want
sure
we
this
don't
cycle finishes out, Kevin.
yeah,
It's fine.
just
Don't worry about it.
just 10-15 minutes, you'll be fine. The no mech suit, you'll be all right. First degree burns are no problem. Second, you'll be all right.
I think the
Uh,
worst part about that, by the way, is when you hear from Harvick that it was literally coming out of the dash too. Like that
yeah,
just makes it that much worse.
it's silly. And kind of like you said, we saw this a couple months ago, and then we saw it again, and still nothing had been fixed. And now all of a sudden, now NASCAR's kind of getting called out about it. Nope, now there's a change. I promise you that change was probably already implemented, probably going on a next year's car. I'm going to give NASCAR some credit there, right? They put some band-aids on it because they didn't want to. They know that these teams already have these cars built, right? I don't even want to know how difficult it was for the teams last second to take off the bodies to put in what NASCAR implemented one day before they left to go to Kansas. I can only imagine the problems that could probably incur from that. So I get that side of it. But it is just kind of ironic that after they kind of get their head kicked in by Kevin Harvick there, that they immediately have a response for it. You almost like to see it, a little bit more with maybe the response for like the safety and stuff that's going on. So, like I said, I will let a lot of things go this first year. Um, you and I talked on the podcast last week. 2023, like you have to have these changes all done 2023 Daytona. If you don't, then there's a problem. I'll let you go for the rest of the year. I understand there's a lot of things you can't do. There's a lot of things you can't fix. We have to have better safety next year. Easily, the first thing we should do is better safety, right? Mile and a half
Bulletin item
racetracks. I
number one.
think, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen as many mile and a half racetracks, 90 plus on Jeff Gluck's, good race pull. So, this car has done a fantastic job at the mile and a half. Let's not change that. Let's not ruin what we have at the mile and a halves. Let's figure out what's wrong with the short tracks and figure out what's going on with the road courses a little bit. But don't change a package we have. Maybe if we need to have one or two packages, okay, whatever. But I expect that 2023, we need to have a plan.
Sure hope so, because there's been nothing down the pipeline that they've said so far. So It's just one of those things you kind of have to hope that they're doing in secret, I guess, at this point, because there's just no transparency at all with any of that stuff. So, and that's one of the most frustrating parts about it. I would just like some sort of, hey, yeah, we know that this is an issue. We're working on it. Um, we'll have something next year. But no, you don't get anything. You get silence, and I don't know that that's ever going to change, because if we're not even going to get notice about, I heard that at Daytona people were saying that they had a plan for the Xfinity race about when they were going to go back green, but they wanted to keep it a secret. Like, if we're keeping stuff like that a
Why?
secret, yeah, exactly. If we're keeping stuff like that a secret, we're not going to get any sort of transparency about anything. So, it's one of the most frustrating parts about NASCAR is we don't get to know anything until it actually happens. So hopefully
Which
we can
doesn't make
change
any
that too.
sense. Yeah, which doesn't make any sense because we're a sport of transparency. That's always been kind of NASCAR's thing. You get to go into the garages, you get to see the race cars, see the people working on the car. It's about transparency. So yeah, again, it's just one of those things. NASCAR just shoves their foot up their ass all the time from just simple things. It's just you know, like I said, the comments made by Kevin Harvick, right? I don't think would have been as harsh had we known the plan was in place. Because I'm telling you right now, that fix didn't just happen between Sunday and Monday. Like that fix has been in place going on to next year's car. It was going to be in next year's regulations. But because it came to light, because Kevin, kind of, kicked their asses a little bit and, basically told them that they were shit, that they need to find somebody else to run the program. They were like, okay, now we need to just go ahead and lay this plan out. When they should have just done that in the first place, like you said.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. If you missed any of Harvick's stuff today, go ahead and go over to his Twitter. I guess yesterday when you're listening to this, go ahead and go over and check his Twitter, because it's a gold mine. It's great. He found his Twitter password, so he went all out. Apparently, he's going to be doing some late model races.
With
Rodney picked,
Junior.
yeah, Rodney posted a picture of a Ford late model, so I would have to assume that that's not anything that's a joke. So, um, yeah. So I
Or it's
mean,
Keelan's. You
I
didn't think of
think
that, did
he's
you?
I think
I
he's a
think they're
little
gonna
young.
run. I think they're gonna run together.
I think he's a
I
little.
think. I think that's the plan.
He's 10.
And
He's not getting in a late model when he's 10. I give him 13. I had to think
you'd
about
be
that for a second. It's been so long. It's crazy to
you'd be
think that he's 10 years old at this point. That makes me feel
you'd
old.
be you'd be surprised.
Anyways, the rest of the race, I mean, other than that, great race. Just overall, all the racing that we saw. Um, we mentioned the attrition, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit here. We mentioned Hendrick Motorsports' woes with Kyle Larson, and then um, Williams' Phantom engine issue, it seemed like. Obviously, Joe Gibbs had some issues as well. Started with Martin Truex. I'll be honest with you, and I think I tweeted it. I had Martin Truex Jr. winning that race. Even as a Kyle fan, I had conceded the point that Martin just had the better car at that point. And then with about 34 laps to go, loses power steering, car starts overheating.
What a
I
gift!
was, yeah, I was literally, I messaged Michael. I was like, man, we just got the gift of the year. And then not 15 laps later, yeah, 18 blows up. I Michael was not watching that live. I was. I had the scanner in the ear from the NASCAR app, so I was a good 30 seconds ahead. Well, maybe more like 15 this week, because I actually was watching a live cable TV feed rather than a live stream. But um, I heard he said he was blown up, and they went to him, and the smoke just started rolling out. And that was probably one of the most devastating things I've ever seen as a Kyle Busch fan. Um, but taking the Kyle Busch fan hat off, it's kind of neat to see all the attrition that we saw, honestly, Michael, because it's something that, they talked about for a long time about how that's not really an issue anymore, how strong these cars are. But obviously, this is a brand new car. It brought a little bit more to that. And as a fan, I kind of like that a little bit more, because it brings a little bit more intrigue to the race.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the biggest part of that is I'll even go ahead and take away that we were racing at Darlington. You know, we were 100% in that playoff atmosphere. First race of the playoffs, first race of the round of 16, and you could tell people brought their best stuff. People brought experimental stuff, and some people guessed it right. Some people blew up,
Literally.
type of deal. So, uh, you kind of, I feel like every year we kind of get the first race of the year for the playoffs is always kind of chaotic. Always has a little bit of attrition, but I think it being at Darlington just brought back a little bit of nostalgia. And then we had such a good finish on top of that. Um, it was nice to see cars that could bounce off the wall and not have tire rubs, and in their days like that, and that be kind of the ordeal. So yeah, I think it was, you know, 10% the new car, probably another 10% Darlington, and then 80% that it was the first round of the playoffs and everybody's bringing their best stuff.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about that finish a little bit because that was one of the highlights for sure. I mean, once Kyle blew up, that left the front row for Eric Jones. He took full advantage of it with 14 laps to go on that final restart. And man, I am happy for Eric because, I mean, he could have been a playoff contender should he had made it in. Obviously, he wasn't going to make it in on points. Could have had a win at Daytona. I guess Talladega is the one earlier in the race. I'm sorry, earlier in the season is the one race you look at as his best chance at it because I mean he was coming to the line, he was bleeding, but with all the blocking happening, got shuffled back a little bit. But I mean, didn't make it, but second Southern 500 win, not his first, his second. So he's pretty good at Darlington, which is a pretty good track to be good at. And held off one of the best there as well, Denny Hamlin. Obviously, there was a little arrow battle going into that, but I mean, he got pretty close there at one point. But as he said, he wasn't really going to be able to do anything unless he hit him. But overall, still a really good finish there. I pretty much loved every minute of the racing there. There was pretty much something happening at every moment, and the ending was no different than that.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, I think regardless, to be honest with you, even if the 18 doesn't blow up there, I still think it's going to be a really good finish. Um, I think all those guys really probably in the top three right there at the end. I think they all really really good race cars at that point in time. They were all a little bit better here, a little bit better there than each other. So uh, overall, you know I went back and I watched a little bit of the first few stages, just kind of get a bearing for here, and it seemed like it was. I wouldn't say that it was easier to pass, but it seemed like a lot more cars got worse throughout runs. I don't know if they brought a different tire exactly or what it was, but it did seem like there was short run cars and long run cars. And once you kind of got the disparity, it wasn't super hard to pass. You didn't really hear a lot this weekend from the drivers about how hard it was to pass. It seemed like it was relatively easy. If you caught a guy from 2 seconds back, you kind of just blew his doors off. Um, and was able to get away from him and then drive away. So hopefully we see some of that at Kansas this week, and hopefully it's something similar to. I think comers and goers is always what makes the races kind of fun. You never know how they're going to play out, but yeah, what a good race, what a fantastic race to start. The 2022 playoffs, and like you said, man, what a way to jumble up the first round. I mean, like I said before, we went in basically. You and I both sat here and was like, "Hey, Chase Elliott is almost a lock for Homestead or not Homestead. I'm going back a couple years for Phoenix." And what was it like 55 laps into the race or something like that? He's sitting here proving us wrong.
I did say barring
So
any issues, and
yeah,
issues did in fact incur.
I mean, right now he's plus 14 to the cutoff. Plus 14. I mean,
I mean, I
insane.
was gonna I was gonna wait until we did the result. Let's just show the standings at this point because I mean it's quite interesting how shaken up everything got. Let's go over there. So, man on the cut line at the moment is Daniel Suarez. He's only two to the good, but the man I guess we should really look at is Chase Elliott because now he was at the top of the board. Now he only has a 14-point cushion to the cutoff line. That is how much that playoff grid got shaken up on Sunday. And I mean, I didn't really see that happening race one, but I knew that knowing this season, anything crazy could have happened, and craziness it did happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're not inconceivable here that he has another bad weekend and a mediocre, uh, Bristol, and we're looking at Chase not making it. Um, we're right now Harvick's at the bottom. We've seen Harvick catch fire this year. There's no reason that Chase Elliott goes out here, gets in another situation here at Kansas, finishes 20th to 30th. He somehow I didn't think so, but a guy that started off plus 40 to the cut line is somehow in a possibility of um missing, going to the second round automatically, which I thought that he'd run, top 5 here and almost guarantee him a spot into the next round just after the first race. But that man, that goes for a lot of these guys. There's guys in here that I thought were locks for the next round that aren't safe anymore. Um, the likes of Ross Chastain, a bad weekend, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, those guys are really close to being, one race away from guaranteeing not making it. And I don't think that I would have thought that going in. Um, crazy first round, and I'm looking forward to see. Like I said, looking forward to see what Kansas holds. Most of the time Kansas is a pretty tame race, but what we saw last week was these guys were willing to push the edge, get themselves into situations. I mean, heck, uh, you know, it sounds like Kyle missed a shift. I mean, a guy that's been doing this for, what, 20 something years at this point, 60 cup wins, 2 championships, missed a shift on a sequential gearbox. Something as simple as that could have cost him not only a automatic advancement into the next round, but pointing his way into the next round. So going into Kansas, man, I'm wide open on not knowing what's going to happen. Um, any one of these guys could go out there and win. Like I said, I mean, Austin Dillon ran really good at, some of these style type racetracks. There's no reason that late race caution comes out, Austin Dillon doesn't win and secures himself into into the thing. I still think it would be absolutely hilarious if Chase has another bad race and it's between him and Austin Dillon, and Austin makes it in the next round and Chase doesn't. Oh, oh,
Be the
like
epitome.
honestly, it would suck, but oh my god, just it would be so funny just to spite NASCAR for this stupid playoff system.
Yeah, and I mean, just with the chaos of this first race, I think it's what we've seen all season. Just the craziness of this whole season, and it didn't really know if it would carry into the playoffs, but obviously it did. So I mean, makes you really wonder what's going to happen next week at Kansas as well. I guess this coming week at Kansas as well. So on the flip side of Chase Elliott, you have Joey Logano at the top now, 38 points to the good, with William Byron 32, Dennis Hamlin with 38 points to the good, Christopher Bell in fourth, 28, Tyler Reddick in fifth, 23 points to the good. I mean, guys that didn't really think would be all the way up the top there, already showing a good run. But I mean, they could have issues at Kansas and be right back down at the bottom. It's just you never know at this point. So gonna be fun to see what happens this week at Kansas. I'm glad the craziness of the season is carried off into the playoffs. The playoff grid is in shambles, and I am absolutely here for it. So, I guess is there anything else that we really want to talk about for Darlington before we get into results here?
Oh, glad Eric Jones, got
Yeah,
his got his hat. Pretty cool there. I think it was, besides the super speedway wins, I think it was the first time that 43 had been to victory lane since John Andretti had won at Martinsville all those years ago. So, uh, cool little step back into history there. Astonishing that it has actually really been that long for them to win a non super speedway race. Uh, and if I'd have told you that going into this year that we're, what, 27 races in, and that Eric Jones has more wins than Martin Truex Jr., I don't think you would have believed me.
no sir. That just shows the craziness of this season. But he did earn that one this weekend. Led 23 laps, but he was pretty much up front for most of the race there. Had a little step back earlier, I believe in stage two, but caution during the green flag cycles got him back up front. So ended up winning the race. Denny Hamlin came home in second, leading 6 laps. Tyler Reddick in third with the weirdest facial hair this weekend. Um,
Questionable.
yeah, not really sure what he was going for there, but thankfully it's already gone. So, Joey Logano came home in fourth, leading 64 laps. Christopher Bell in fifth. Michael McDowell, a solid run in sixth, good for him. Brad Keselowski in seventh, led 11 laps in seventh there. William Byron eighth. Bubba Wallace in his first run in the 45 brings it home in a top 10. And Alex Bowman comes home with a top 10 in 10th. A few notables here: Kyle Larson in 12th, Ryan Blaney 13th, Ty Gibbs in 15th, Austin Cindric in 16th, Austin Dillon in 17th, Daniel Suarez 18th, Ross Chastain in 20th. Going down the list here, Chase Briscoe 27th after the accident with Chase Elliott, but kept going. Kyle Busch 30th, Martin Truex Jr. 31st, Kevin Harvick 33rd, and Chase Elliott in 26th. Well, I guess I'm glad that I did not pick Busch this week, but I don't think I really finished that well. He came home for 12th, so not that bad. Kyle Larson, but
It's
um,
20. I was 20 laps away, 20 laps.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. Anything else we want to touch for Darlington?
No, like I said, I mean, like you said, taking the KB fan hat off, it was an awesome weekend for racing. Uh, Darlington put on a fantastic show. The crowd seemed like it was really good, even after the little bit of
Sold
rain
out.
sprouts that we had. Um, so kudos to people going. I mean, that's if we want to keep these historic tracks alive. I mean, I think North Wilkesboro and all that just kind of shows that, like, if it's up to us if we want these racetracks to happen, right? If we want NASCAR to say, F off to Texas, right? We have to go as race fans to other racetracks. We got to be willing maybe to go the extra mile to these racetracks that we want. Like all these people want Rockingham. Well, you got to fucking go, right? You can't just sit at home and watch Rockingham and expect it to show up the next couple years.
And that's why
Uh,
we lost it to
yeah.
2012, 2013. They tried, but nobody came. So
So super pumped. Like I said, I mean, NASCAR this year with the next gen car, as many problems as it had, as much crap as I've talked about it, the mile and a halfs, they finally car that works there since the Gen 4 body. Um, air still plays a big role, but with the diffuser and you know, the floor being flat and using ground effects, it is much better. Has it solved all the problems? No, but I don't think it necessarily needs to. I think it's produced amazing racing. Um, so I'm glad they showed up. I'm glad that the fans got a fantastic race, and I think that's all what you always want. Um, well deserved for the 200th win for the 43 car. Uh, but overall, I mean, the Xfinity race was fantastic. The Cup race was fantastic. Really, really, honestly, other than the few nitpick things about NASCAR itself, I cannot complain about the on-track action this weekend.
absolutely, and I can't believe that did not score a 100 in Jeff Gluck's poll because, like I tweeted, if there's, I don't know what more you needed out of a race. That
Well,
was
maybe if they'd
probably.
have called the caution when Harvick was on fire sooner, maybe it'd have been 100.
I mean, I guess, but that's no reason to mark a race down as no. But yeah, it,
Is it true? I didn't even pay attention to it until you said something. Has it only been Fords that have been catching on fire? Is that true?
I mean, for the most part, I think last time we were at Darlington, Alex Bowman had that issue. But other than that, it's been Forge. Yeah, Chase Briscoe at, I think it was no, I was gonna say St.
Richmond.
Louis, Richmond. That's where it was.
Yeah.
Obviously Chris Buescher at the Indy road course. I feel like there's one more I'm missing, but then obviously Harvick this week as well at Darlington.
And I loved Harvick's quote with crappy ass parts. Awesome.
Calls it as he sees it, and I mean he's one of the few guys that NASCAR can't do anything about what he
Nope.
says. What are you gonna do? Fine him? Go ahead. Yeah, make yourself look like more of an idiot. Go ahead. So, all right, let's get into news here because I mean, man, we have a pretty big bombshell that came out today. Was leaked yesterday, but was officially announced this week or today. North Wilkesboro. That was the quickest revival I think I've seen in a racetrack's history. Going to be hosting the 2023 All-Star race next year. They're going to have a lot of work to do with the infrastructure there. as well as fixing up that place a little bit. They're not going to be touching the surface, obviously, but you got to get the safer barrier put in there. You got to fix up, like I said, the infrastructure coming in, the buildings there, the concessions, everything there. It's going to need a little bit of a facelift, but the one thing that they're not going to be doing is repaving that or tearing up the track there. So, Michael, I'll get your opinion on this. I did not see that. Obviously, I knew it was gonna have a life after the Cars Tour race, but I did not see that quick of a turnaround from the big night they had there on last Wednesday to this week announcing that Cup Series racing was gonna return there. I didn't that was not on my bingo card for this year.
I uh I know you don't remember, but like a couple months ago, like I swear to you, like we were sitting here talking on the podcast, and I'm like, you know, this can possibly turn into the best case scenario for a place like the All Star race, right? I don't think that we need to go to we already go to NASCAR nationally sanctioned tracks, right? And if we're going to, we just need to go back to Charlotte. I think this is 100% the best option for an all-star race. It's an all-star race type deal, right? It's going back to NASCAR's roots. It's giving local fans the ability to go to a NASCAR race. I know you were talking about them trying to expand seating. I don't think that's necessary. I think the more popular that you make that ticket, the more valuable that ticket becomes, right? It's like money, right? There's only so much money, so you want as much as you can. It's the same thing as a ticket. It'd be like old school Bristol back in like the early 90s, early 2000s, right? You couldn't get a ticket unless somebody died off the waiting list type of deal. Um, I think NASCAR needs to generate that type of buzz. Right now, NASCAR cares very little, and this is 100% honest opinion just from looking on the outside in. NASCAR and a lot of the NASCAR sanctioned racetracks seem to care very little about the race fans that actually go. They're more concerned about the demographic that are watching on TV. More and more people are watching on TV than what is going to the races. I think that is actually NASCAR's undoing. I think the more that you make something a hot commodity, they will want to go, right? I guarantee you, if they put North Wilkesboro's tickets on sale right now, they'd sell out within seconds. Seconds, not minutes. 5 seconds, they'd all be sold out.
That's a
Every
guarantee.
s-
And
every single thing that they have, right? Because it's such a hot commodity. And if you go back the next year, it'll be sold out again. If you go back for the next couple years, it will still be sold out. And it's really going to be regardless of the racing, right? People are just going to want to go because it's North Wilkesboro. And
now
you
my
could do that
question
with a lot of races.
my question is going to be, I know for the racing events they did there, I mean the tickets prices and concession prices were really low from what I heard. I'm wondering if that's going to stay the same for this cup race. Probably not, but I kind of hope that they do.
I think that they have to, right? This is an exhibition race, like first and foremost, right? It doesn't mean anything to the NASCAR season other than the winner gets $1 million or whatever it's going to be next year. But this is a good time to get new generations of fans going to a racetrack, right? Dads who grew up going to North Brooksboro as a kid, watching the likes of Dale Sr., Jeff Gordon, even uh, Terry Labonte. I mean, hell, the last NASCAR race there was 1996. Um, if you get those, be like, hey, let's go this. I remember going there as a kid. Let's go, type of thing. Um, I don't think it needs to be expensive. I don't think it has to be super. I don't think it has to be 100% a money building like revenue type stream. You know what I'm saying? I think it needs to be an introduction to what this can be in the future. I'm not saying tickets need to be $5, but I don't think they need to be $160 either. I think they need to find a common ground to what the normal race fan can afford and then make it a weekend event, right? Throw in weekend tickets, throw in things like that, throw in a cars tour event. Um, there's a lot of things that they can do that makes this a whole atmosphere and weekend type deal. But I think first and foremost, if we're gonna go there, it's a short track. We gotta solve the short track problem with the next gen car. I'm hoping that the softer tire is really good at Martinsville. Um, the the last one we can go back to is Richmond. Richmond was pretty good. I'm not saying it was awful. I'm not saying it was fantastic. It was pretty good. It was nice to see them spread out, but the fastest way around was still the bottom, and that's where you were making the most time after the first 15, 20 laps. We need to make the car be good here. We need to have a package that suits short tracks, that suits places like North Wilkesboro. Overall, I think that it is a fantastic idea. I am looking forward to it. I hope that they throw everything they can at it. I hope they, get as much backing from sponsors to host it, and I hope they get fantastic concerts and things like that. Make it a full weekend event, not just about the NASCAR All Star Race. Um, I think this is an opportunity to hit it out of the park, and it's going to be up to NASCAR, North Wilkesboro, and even the drivers themselves to market as much as they can if they want these types of places to come back.
Yeah, for sure. And I 100% agree with you. I think Dale Jr. had mentioned it in his interview this week, but yeah, you absolutely have to make that a full weekend thing. You have to make it worth it. And especially with a track like that, local track, they have to have some sort of events around that. Not sure what it'll be yet, but got to do something with that. So looking forward to, like you said, I'm going to be really interested to see how quickly those tickets sell out because it's going to be a very quick sellout. Interested to see what they do with that racetrack as well, just with fixing it up and stuff. Whether we keep the temporary lighting was there currently. It'd be interesting to see if they install the full lighting there. I do know that some of that grandstands do need some work, so a lot of work ahead of them, but they do have time. So um, it's
I'm gonna try to get tickets.
if I was on the East Coast, I probably would, but I don't know. We'll see. I guess not gonna say no, but probably not gonna happen for me. But um, I'm just really excited for everybody who wanted that track back. Um, I know that a lot of people made good memories there, and for all those people who said that it would never be back on the Cup Series schedule, even if it is just for an All-Star race, I'm really glad that we proved them wrong. So
I think the last time we talked about it, I think the best that we really hoped for was just a truck race, and well, we
yeah,
took two jumps forward there.
yeah, that's why I was saying I wasn't really expecting that, but it was a pleasant surprise. So um, I'm glad that we're back. I'm glad that that racetrack is revived, but I do think that we need to do the same for Rockingham. I don't know if it's just people who don't want to go to that track or what it is, but I feel like that track can put on a heck of a show as well. So I'm hoping that's next on the list. I know that there was some sort of grant or fund that came down for Charlotte, North Wilkesboro, and Rockingham, so hoping some money gets put towards that as well. But I guess we shall see. Michael, you had mentioned another piece of news: the change that was made to the next gen to try and hopefully reduce the fires coming in. Do you have any details on that that you can share with us? Some technical details?
I do. I am sending you a link right now to you can pull up, and it actually shows exactly what parts they're making a change with, and it'll give you a pretty good idea. There's a lot of big words in there that I'm not an engineer and can pronounce. Uh, but basically, it looks like they're basically covering the exhaust cover panels. Um, Looks like they're adding extra. Looks like what that is at. Fire retardant material in certain areas, but definitely I think a good step forward. Yeah, you can see the one of the changes right there on that bottom picture. That was before that was all just one piece, but now it's blocked off with actual steel. So hopefully that makes a difference. I guess we will see when that time comes. Uh, I'm curious.
Got some interesting ads on this website. Goodness,
Oh yeah. um,
we're gonna
oh
stop
yeah, you
saving.
are there. That's funny. Um, but yeah, it shows you about how big the size is right there of the change that they made. But yeah, we'll see. I hope that it's a 100% fix, but honestly, you never know. Like I said, I think the biggest change will be come 2023. I think we'll see a lot more, ways to kind of cure it. I think this is probably just a patch for now, um, because unfortunately, all the materials that can catch on fire. I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of like water. Um, you don't know there's a hole until you put water on something, and then you realize, okay, there's tons of holes. And I think that'll kind of be the same thing. Basically, what this is doing is stopping rubber being able to build up right over where the exhaust is at. Um, and I guarantee you, had the exhaust ran farther back, the way I think it was supposed to originally before the drivers complained that their feet were getting too hot, I'm not sure that this probably would have been that big of a problem. But because it comes out where it does, directly, right after the front corner panels there, I think that's where the biggest issue is.
Yep. So we'll have to see if that solves the issue. We'll know here this weekend at Kansas and moving forward. So hopefully that's the end of these cars randomly catching fire. A few more pieces of information that came out. Not sure if we mentioned it last week, but Justin Alexander will be stepping down from the crew chief role. He was the crew chief for Austin Dillon. I don't know if it was announced whether he'd be leaving RCR, but for sure will be stepping down from the crew chief role and will be taking a lesser role in the shop. And other piece of information, a really cool thing that they should have done from the beginning of the season. NASCAR is going to be offering a free live or a free in-car for every single car in the field this weekend. Going to be free on the website for this race as well as the rest of the season, and they say future. So hopefully that continues into next year. Because we'll have to wait and see on that. Glad we're finally getting this offering after years. I know not every car had the capability for that last year, but obviously with this car, that was one of the main elements. You can see it in all the cars, so glad we finally have that in place.
Yeah, I think I think those cameras have been so sponsor driven for the past couple of years. Um, but I feel like when they introduced this next gen car, that was one of their talking points that I remember, uh, reading an article about this time last year, how one of their main focuses was for every car to have a permanent camera system, um, on all, cars starting the field. So I think it's cool. I think NASCAR's like 10 years behind all the other, major motorsport series in that manner. Uh, but I think it's cool. You'll be able to watch your driver. Um, I'm not sure. I don't think a scanner will be included with that. Would be cool if it was, but I'll take the in car. I think that's pretty neat. Hopefully, you have options for all the cameras on board and not just an in car one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for news. Let's get into this weekend's schedule, shall we? So it starts on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all time in Eastern Standard Time. Going to be practice for the Camping World Truck Series. Going to catch that on FS2. 30 minutes later, going to be qualifying, still on FS2. And then a little bit later, going to be 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to be practice for the Xfinity Series. 30 minutes later, qualifying. Both going to be on USA. Looks like after that they're going to have a press pass with the pole sitter, and then 7:30 p.m. going to be Kansas Lottery 200 for the Camping World Truck Series. Catch that on FS1. Listen to it on MRN. A post-race press pass with that as well. Saturday, September 10th, starting pretty early, 10:15 a.m. Going to be practice for the Arc Menard Series. Not going to be able to catch that anywhere, so I guess don't worry about it. 10:30 going to be a press
Why
pass
bother?
with, yeah, press pass with Daniel Suarez, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Uh, what's his face? Dale Jr. did release some what we thought was a teaser today, but turned out to be nothing. So maybe we'll have
No.
something tomorrow. Probably
Little
not.
little too much high rock. That's what it was.
Seems like it, yeah. So 11 a.m. going to be qualifying for the Arkham Menard series. Again, no TV for that, so whatever. Uh, 10 or 12:05 p.m. going to be practice for the NASCAR Cup Series. You can only watch that on the NBC Sports app. Hopefully it works this week with football starting back up, so hopefully there's no blackouts. 12:50 p.m. going to be qualifying again only on the app, and then a press pass after that with the pole sitter. 3 p.m. going to be the Kansas Lottery 300. Catch that on USA. Listen to it on MRN. A press pass with that as well after, and then 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the Kansas Lottery 150. Watch that on Flow Racing and listen to it on MRN. A little surprised because that's normally on Fox Sports, but I guess not this time around.
I don't understand why. Why is your top divisions practice and qualifying not even on Peacock or TV? Like, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I just had to cut in there. Like, that's a joke.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. So, and then a post-race press pass with ARCA after that. And then 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, the Hollywood Casino 400. Watch it on USA or the NBC Sports app, barring it working, and listen to it on MRN, and then a post-race press pass after that. So, with that, I actually did not pull up the... oops, and I didn't mean to press that. I actually didn't pull up the... we'll go to the Xfinity first here for our picks while I pull up the trucks here. Michael, I'll let you pick first.
For Xfinity or trucks?
For Xfinity.
Mile and a half. Brett Moffitt's in the 07. Interesting. Well, at least we know it probably won't crash. Man, I don't know. Actually, I'm going to say that Sam Mayer gets his first career Xfinity Series win this weekend.
Interesting. All right. Well, I guess I will pick... I kind of want to go with No Gregson, but I think Justin Allgaier is going to bring it back into victory lane. I mean, I feel like every week it's going to be one of the Junior Motorsports guys, so my money is going to be on Allgaier.
And of course, my secondary pick is the 4 to 5 car of Raja Karif. But, that's a must. Also, it is. I was going to put it in the notes and I completely forgot that Brandon Brown is going to be in the 0-2 for our motorsports this weekend. So, possible future ride there. I think that car is easily a top 10, top 15 car in the right hands, as we saw with Brett Moffitt. I think Brandon Brown is a good person to lead that team. So hopefully he has a good result, and it would be nice to kind of see that grow into a more permanent.
For sure. Yeah, I can only hope for the best with him at this point because I know it's been a pretty rocky road since last year. So hopefully he can get that turned around. And now that we have the truck entry list pulled up, we're prepared every week, I promise. Michael, I'll let you pick first again.
I am actually going to go with John Hunter Nemechek here. The KBM trucks were super strong the last time that they were here. I think it will be the Ford truck that gets it done this time.
All right. Well, it's going to be a little bit of a tough one. I'm going to pick, I think, Zane Smith, purely on a speed aspect. And
Is this I believe this is a cutoff race as well for the trucks.
I believe you're probably right. So.
And I believe it's Hocevar and Crafton and Eckes that are below the cut line right now. Or no, it's Hocevar and Eckes. Crafton is right above it, +3. So definitely going to be something interesting to watch.
Let's pull this up. Why don't we? And yes, it is a cutoff race. 2 people get eliminated this weekend, and then 4 next week or 4 next
Doesn't
time.
make
Because why not?
doesn't make any sense, but whatever. NASCAR makes the rules. But yeah, I mean, if I'd again another kind of one of those things, if I'd have told you at the beginning of the year that Hocevar has a chance to go out within the first round, if you kind of go back and look at it, ever since I want to say Charlotte, his performance has really dropped, but really after his accident, I think in qualifying at Sonoma, it really kind of seemed like he fell off a map a little bit. Trucks just don't seem to be as strong. Uh, so we'll be definitely interested to see what kind of truck that they bring. I mean, I'm hoping that Hocevar, maybe Nice Motorsports brings their best stuff, and hopefully he has a chance to fight for the win. But would be a real shock if he doesn't advance into the next round, especially with as good as he's ran all year, as fast as he is. For him to not get that win so far this year is a disappointment, but I think would be even a bigger disappointment if he got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, 3 people have a good shot. Well, I guess there's really only 3 players in this, the 2 underneath the cutoff line, and then Matt Crafton, who's 3 points behind. So, going to be a very important race coming up here to decide who's going to be into that Final Four in the next few weeks. So, have to see. So, yeah, that is Trucks. We picked Trucks Xfinity. Let's go into Cup now.
I am going to pick Martin Truex Jr. Um, the Toyotas are super strong on mile and a halfs and bigger. It just seems to be their car strength this year with aerodynamics or motor, whatever it is. So I think I honestly I probably really could go with any of the Joe Gibbs guys or the Toyota guys. I even think Bubba has a good chance this weekend. But I think Martin Truex Jr. I think he's going to take the momentum that he had from last weekend, even though it's a disappointment. I still think he'll take that momentum, and I think he'll get his first win of the year.
Well, I am going to stay in that JGR family, and I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. Ran pretty well there last time, and I think he gets the win on Sunday. And I think that'll do it. So, Michael, we got any other racing this weekend other than Kansas going on?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is the final for the IndyCar Series. There's a couple drivers still at play, um, but it seems like it's really down to Will Power and Scott Dixon. I don't think you could have asked for a better duo for it to be down. You know, been kind of rivals in the sport for a couple years now. Scott has always seemed to got the upper hand of Will, but Will Power has been a different animal this year, and it's been, I think, fun to watch. I mean, I wasn't a big Will Power fan in the past, but I think over the past probably half a year or so, he seems like he is a lot more relaxed. Looks like he's having a lot more fun. And he's my pick to win the championship, and I've been secretly rooting for him for the past few weeks. So that's going to be a good one to watch. It is at Laguna Seca at 2:40 p.m. Eastern on September 11th. Again, another IndyCar race that clashes with the Cup race. I don't know why they do such things, especially since they're on the same network. But maybe one day we will learn. Um, and then, of
Maybe.
course, Formula One at Monza this weekend. For the past 2 years, we've had upset winners, and there's no reason that we won't have another one. Um, Mercedes still looking for their first win of the year, and they've been getting closer and closer. So we will see how that one pans out, and that is Sunday, September 11th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Justin, you might eventually get up to watch one at 6 a.m.
Maybe. This
Probably
weekend's gonna be a
not.
little bit better. It's gonna be a lot cooler, so maybe I'll get myself up. We'll see.
The odds of that happening are very, very small, isn't
Very.
it?
I gotta
uh,
make up for last weekend, man. It was a rough one.
oh, come on. That's funny. Um, but as far as, big time major motorsports, no MotoGP this weekend. Uh, so That's our big stuff on Sunday for you race fans. Of course, there are always smaller races throughout these, weeks and days and months and years. I find myself every once in a while going onto YouTube and I watch highlights of World of Outlaws. Uh, you get some pretty good content on there as well. But that is it for the major motorsports side of it. A few more news out of that. It is rumored that Colton Herta is trying to get a super license to go drive for Alpha Tauri in Formula One. So we could get that long-awaited American Formula One driver. Not sure that I understand it all on from Colton Herta's side. Maybe just the prestige is big enough there, but definitely would be nice to have an American on the grid there for sure.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I got nothing else. If you got nothing, let's take it to the house.
As always, thank you guys so much for listening and now watching the 500 Mile Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Let us know if there's anything that we could do better. Please comment, communicate with us. I believe Justin has our Twitter handles up on there as well. Uh, Reach out, joke around. We can take some criticism. Uh, but other than that, hope you guys have a wonderful and safe weekend. I know California has their scare with the hurricane, so for all of our fans and listeners on that side of the planet, be safe. Uh, have fun watching some racing this week. Take it all in. Some championships to be decided. But other than that, my name's Michael. His name's Justin. And as always, we'll talk to you next week.